Let me see that ass move.
On the night of July 2nd, 2025, an album release event was held at Artis Restaurant and Lounge in downtown Chicago. The event was organized to promote a local rapper's new project and drew a large crowd of attendees, including friends, fans, and associates. At approximately 11:15 p.m., as attendees were exiting the venue, a dark-colored vehicle approached. Multiple individuals inside the vehicle discharged firearms into the crowd outside the lounge. The shooting lasted several seconds before the vehicle fled the scene. A total of 18 people were shot. 4 individuals were pronounced dead shortly after the incident. 14 others sustained various injuries and were transported to nearby hospitals for treatment. Law enforcement responded to the scene within minutes. Multiple shell casings were recovered. 2 types of firearms were identified based on the casings, indicating the use of more than one weapon. Surveillance footage from nearby businesses captured parts of the incident, but did not reveal the vehicle's license plate. The 4 deceased victims were later identified. Each was under the age of 30. At least one of them had a personal connection to the artist whose release was being celebrated. The others were described as attendees with no public affiliations to any criminal activity or known motives for targeting.
In Chicago, police are searching for at least one gunman behind a deadly drive-by mass shooting. This happened late last night as people were leaving a party at a restaurant and lounge. You're looking now at video of the chaotic aftermath. Police say a dark-colored vehicle drove past the crowd that was standing outside. Someone in the car, possibly more than one person, fired into the crowd before driving away. 4 people were killed, 14 others were hurt. NBC News correspondent Shaquille Brewster joins us now. Shaq, what do we know about this investigation? Does this look like it was a targeted shooting?
Well, we'll expect to hear from police and city leadership in just the next hour or so. All that they've said so far is that there is no suspect in custody and that this is, of course, something that is under investigation. This shooting took place around 11 p.m. last night outside of a listening party for Chicago rapper Mello Buckzz. They say after the event that started around 7 p.m., a dark-colored vehicle pulled up and began shooting into the crowd before speeding away. I want you to listen to what one witness said after the shooting.
Stay with us as we unravel this shocking story and uncover the heartbreaking details of what led to this senseless loss. Before we begin, let us know in the comments, where are you watching from, and what are your thoughts as the story unfolds? Welcome to True Crime Tales, where we reveal the crimes that shock communities and the secrets hidden behind closed doors. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Now, let's begin. Mello Buckzz, born Melanie Doyle, is a Chicago-based rapper who emerged in the city's underground music scene and steadily built a following over several years. Though not nationally known at the time of the incident, she had developed a strong regional presence, particularly among younger audiences in the Midwest. Her music, marked by aggressive lyricism and beats rooted in drill and trap, resonated with listeners familiar with Chicago's urban realities. Doyle was reportedly in her early to mid-20s at the time of the album release event. Her artistic persona, Mello Buckzz, reflected themes of resilience, struggle, ambition, and loyalty. She cultivated a social media presence that emphasized both street credibility and loyalty to her supporters. Known for her live performances, Mello Buckzz was often praised for her ability to energize crowds through her stage presence and lyrical delivery. Her growing reputation allowed her to book headlining shows and attract collaborations with other regional artists. On the night of July 2nd, 2025, Mello Buckzz hosted a private album release party to celebrate the launch of her latest project. The event was intended to mark a major milestone in her career and was seen by close associates as a celebration of her progress in the industry. It was not open to the general public, but was instead curated through invitations and word-of-mouth promotion. The venue chosen for the event was Artis Lounge, located at 311 West Chicago Avenue in the city's River North District. Artis Lounge had a reputation for upscale ambience, but was also known for its nightlife clientele and prior incidents involving violence. The artist and her team reportedly selected the location due to its central location and its previous association with celebrity parties. The guest list included a mix of individuals from the local entertainment scene: hairstylists, dancers, producers, club promoters, influencers, and personal friends. Some guests had close personal ties to Mello Buckzz, including family members and her boyfriend, Devonte Williamson, who was present that night. Despite the scale of the event and the presence of high-profile individuals, questions remain about the level of security provided at Artis Lounge during the party. Reports suggest there was no visible use of metal detectors at the door, nor were there clearly enforced bag checks or pat-downs. The venue, while equipped with security cameras, was not publicly confirmed to have any off-duty law enforcement stationed during the event. It remains unclear if private security personnel were properly licensed or adequately staffed to manage the crowd and protect the perimeter. Estimates of the crowd size range between 70 and 100 individuals, filling the club near or beyond its operating capacity, with attendees gathering outside in traffic continuing in the nearby street. The perimeter around the venue was described by multiple witnesses as congested and loosely monitored. In the hours leading up to the shooting, social media platforms were flooded with content related to the party. Flyers and digital invites circulated on Instagram and Snapchat, showcasing the artist's branding and confirming her live appearance at Artis Lounge. Users began posting images and videos from the venue as early as 8 p.m. Party-goers uploaded Instagram stories displaying the interior of the club, including bottle service, dance floors, DJ performances, and group celebrations. Snapchat posts captured people entering the venue and interacting with the host. The event appeared to draw a crowd of young adults in their 20s, dressed for nightlife, many of whom were influencers or affiliated with Chicago's creative circles. Inside the lounge, the atmosphere was described as vibrant, festive, and high energy. A local DJ played a mix of drill, hip-hop, and R&B tracks throughout the night. Bartenders were seen serving drinks consistently, and crowd interactions remained mostly peaceful. Attendees engaged in dancing, taking selfies, and enjoying the event. Several individuals close to the artist noted that she was in a celebratory mood, frequently moving to the crowd to thank supporters, pose for photos, and acknowledge her team. The celebration was described as informal but structured enough to showcase the album's content and Mello Buckzz' gratitude toward her audience. At approximately 11 p.m., guests began exiting the Artis Lounge in downtown Chicago, following the conclusion of Mello Buckz's album release party. The event had drawn dozens of young people, many affiliated with Chicago's entertainment, beauty, and nightlife scenes. As crowds gathered near the entrance and sidewalk, a black SUV approached from the west. Witnesses described it as possibly a Honda Pilot or Dodge Durango, though no official confirmation has been released. As the SUV slowed down near the lounge, at least 2 individuals inside opened fire on the crowd. Some witnesses claimed a third person was also inside, possibly serving as a spotter or additional shooter. The assailants used automatic weapons and handguns, spraying bullets indiscriminately into the group standing outside. Over 30 rounds were discharged in less than 20 seconds. The attack caused immediate panic. Guests began screaming, running in all directions, and dropping to the ground to avoid gunfire. Some were hit while fleeing. Others were struck while standing still. The shooters remained inside the vehicle throughout the incident, never exiting or interacting with anyone on foot. No shots were returned. No security personnel or bystanders appeared to be armed or responded with counterfire. Once the gunfire stopped, the SUV accelerated eastbound and disappeared. Its occupants have not been identified or apprehended. Despite multiple nearby surveillance cameras in the heavily monitored River North area, no public footage of the suspects or vehicle has been released by authorities. When emergency services arrived, they discovered a mass casualty scene. Blood covered the pavement outside the club's entrance. Victims were lying on sidewalks near cars and across the road. Ambulances began transporting the wounded to 2 major trauma centers, Stroger Hospital and Northwestern Memorial Hospital. In total, 18 individuals were shot. 4 victims were fatally wounded. 14 others were hospitalized. Several were listed in critical condition. Others sustained non-fatal gunshot wounds. The victims were primarily black men and women, ranging in age from 21 to 32 years old. The majority of them were associated with either Mello Buckzz, her social circle, or the nightlife scene. Taylor Walker was a hairstylist and beauty entrepreneur. She had established herself as a skilled professional in the Chicago hair industry, known for working with a number of local artists, including Mello Buckzz. Her clientele included influencers, musicians, and fashion stylists. Walker was also a mother of 2 young children. Friends and associates describe her as driven, consistent, and focused on building a better life for her family. She had previously shared aspirations of opening her own salon. She was shot in the chest during the attack and later died at Northwestern Memorial Hospital. She was reportedly leaving the lounge when she was struck by gunfire. Her death was confirmed hours later by her mother and siblings. Aviance King, also known by her legal or professional name Aviance Drexler, was a certified healthcare worker. She was attending the party with friends from her community and was known to have had a long-standing friendship with Mello Buckzz. Aviance was described by family and co-workers as kind-hearted, compassionate, and community-driven. She had worked in several clinics on Chicago's South Side and was pursuing further certification to become a registered nurse. She was shot near the entrance of the venue and died on the scene or en route to the hospital. Her death was later confirmed by hospital officials. Devonte Williamson was the boyfriend of Mello Buckzz and a recently new father. He was often present in the rapper's social media and had reportedly been involved in planning the release party. Devonte was known for his outgoing personality and social popularity within Chicago nightlife circles. He was struck in the chest and later died at Stroger Hospital. Multiple eyewitnesses said he was attempting to help others get into a rideshare vehicle when the bullets hit him. Devonte's death gained widespread media attention due to his relationship with Mello Buckzz and his status as a young father. Leon Henry, age 25, was among the 4 individuals killed in the shooting. Public records confirm his death at Stroger Hospital due to a gunshot wound to the head. Few personal details have been released about Henry. He was believed to be a local affiliate of others attending the event. His connections to the primary party organizers remain unclear. Law enforcement has not publicly released any potential background or gang affiliation. Henry's death was confirmed by the Cook County Medical Examiner's Office.
Family members share a photo of 23-year-old Devonte Williamson tonight, describing him as a very smart, caring, loving father of a daughter who he loved with all his heart. In a statement, family also told us that Devonte would always brighten up a room with a big smile. His passion was pursuing truck driving. He obtained his CDL last year. Devonte was among dozens at a release party for a local rapper who apparently had rivals.
This wasn't some random shooting. They didn't care who was struck, and in a matter of seconds, they were able to shoot 18 people.
We spoke with family members of a few of the victims tonight. At least one also fears retribution by whoever sprayed bullets across a crowd of people just leaving Mello Buckzz release party at Artis Restaurant and Lounge in River North.
There was just a body outside of our door, and there was just a lot of blood everywhere.
Taylor Walker was another of the 4 who died last night. Her aunt tells me they're all talked out. But over the phone, she shared how the 26-year-old was good friends with the rapper and also went to support Mello Buckzz. Taylor's described as a bright and intelligent hairdresser who loved fashion and being with loved ones. She was looking forward to going on vacation next week. Now we know the names of the other 2 victims. They're Leon Andrew Henry and Aviance King, also in their 20s. Tonight, the alderman is infuriated that this has happened at this location again.
I don't want to see this venue reopen ever. And I don't think this particular address should ever be considered for a liquor license ever again, given its horrible history.
This as we approach the 4th of July holiday. Last year, more than 100 people were shot and 19 were killed.
Shootings like these are a tragic reminder of how far we still have to go as a city.
And we reached out to the Artis venue team, and they said in a statement, we are deeply saddened by this unforeseeable tragedy. They said we are cooperating with law enforcement. For now, we're live at Northwestern Memorial. Natalie Martinez, NBC5 News.
Of the 14 people injured during the attack, 13 were women and 1 was a man. Their names have not been released publicly due to medical privacy laws and safety concerns. Several of the survivors remain hospitalized weeks later, dealing with multiple gunshot wounds and internal injuries. Some survivors suffered damage to the spine, legs, and torso, leaving them either temporarily or permanently disabled. Others were discharged but now face significant physical therapy and mental health challenges. Witnesses said some of the injured were trampled during the chaos that followed the shooting. Others were struck while attempting to help fallen friends. Videos posted online show at least 3 victims crawling or bleeding heavily while people screamed for help. Many of the survivors have reported developing PTSD symptoms, including night terrors, panic attacks, and the inability to return to work. Several face ongoing financial struggles due to lost wages and high medical bills. A few have launched fundraising pages to cover treatment costs. To date, none of the injured survivors have been provided protection, as suspects remain at large and the motive behind the shooting is still unclear. The aftermath of the shooting at Artis Lounge was immediate and catastrophic. Within seconds of the first shot being fired, the sound of gunfire was replaced by screams and chaos. Eyewitnesses reported bodies lying motionless on the pavement, while others attempted to flee in every direction. The sidewalk and street were stained with blood. Several victims were found face down near the venue's entrance, surrounded by shattered glass, abandoned belongings, and shell casings. Personal items were scattered across the scene. Phones dropped during the panic, heels and sneakers torn off while running, wigs and purses left behind. Some party-goers ducked behind parked vehicles, tried to avoid being hit. Others tried to shield friends or crawl to safety. Witnesses say many didn't realize what happened until they saw blood on their own clothes or the lifeless body of someone beside them. Within minutes, emergency services were called. Multiple ambulances and police units arrived at the location. First responders quickly assessed the scene, attempting to triage the wounded. Many of the victims were unresponsive. EMTs worked quickly, but the number of casualties overwhelmed them. Bystanders attempted to help, applying pressure to wounds or yelling for help. Some victims were loaded into ambulances by strangers due to the shortage of paramedics. Both Stroger and Northwestern trauma centers received an influx of patients within a short period. Doctors and nurses were alerted to a mass casualty event. The emergency rooms were crowded, and several patients were listed in critical condition. Families began to arrive at both hospitals, searching for loved ones. Inside and outside the hospitals, confusion spread as authorities tried to identify the deceased and the wounded. As sirens echoed in the background, the media presence grew. Local news stations quickly arrived at the scene, followed by national outlets. Aerial footage from news helicopters showed stretchers, flashing lights, and a crowd of onlookers. News reports initially miscounted the victims, citing conflicting numbers. Videos taken by witnesses began circulating online within an hour. The footage, some graphic and disturbing, went viral, drawing attention from across the country. News of the shooting spread quickly, and families began calling hospitals, friends, and law enforcement for information. When confirmation came that 4 individuals had died and over a dozen more were injured, reactions ranged from stunned silence to visible collapse. Taylor Walker's mother gave a brief statement to the media while standing outside the hospital. She said, "I've buried 2 children already. I can't do this again." Her daughter, a 26-year-old hairstylist and mother of 2, had simply gone out to celebrate her friend's music release. She was shot in the chest and died shortly after arrival at the hospital. Devonte Williamson's mother also spoke out. "My son just became a father," she said, holding a photo of him smiling with his newborn. "He was full of life." Devonte had been dating the artist hosting the event. He was also shot in the chest and died at Stroger Hospital. As word of the victim's identity spread, the community mobilized quickly. Hashtags like #JusticeForTaylor and #ArtistShooting began trending locally and then nationally. Friends and family members of the deceased posted tributes, photos, and memories on social media platforms. Influencers and fellow artists expressed condolences, while others demanded accountability. Online fundraising efforts were launched to support the victims' families. Several GoFundMe pages were created, with thousands raised within hours. Community members also planned candlelight vigils. One vigil took place outside Artis Lounge just 48 hours after the shooting. Another was held in Taylor Walker's neighborhood, where mourners released balloons and lit candles. The sense of grief and anger in the community was widespread. Many questioned how something so violent could happen at a highly publicized, seemingly secure event in one of Chicago's most monitored areas. Almost immediately after the shooting, attention turned to the venue itself. Artis Lounge was criticized not only for the incident, but also for its past. The club had a documented history of violence. Previously operating under the name Hush Lounge, the venue was the site of a fatal shooting in 2022. During that incident, a man was shot and killed during a confrontation at the bar. Although the name was changed and management claimed to have rebranded in 2023, public records indicate that the location continued to attract high-risk events. The July 2nd shooting raised new questions about whether Artis Lounge was operating within the bounds of city safety regulations. Reports surfaced suggesting that the venue may not have employed sufficient security staff. There was also speculation about whether metal detectors or ID scanners were in use at the door. These details remain unconfirmed by the venue's management. Further scrutiny came from the alleged absence of critical surveillance footage. While downtown Chicago is equipped with numerous street cameras, authorities reported that footage from the immediate vicinity of the entrance was either missing or unavailable. The venue's own internal security system also failed to capture a clear view of the shooters or their vehicle. Residents and community leaders began questioning why a venue with known history of violence was still allowed to operate. Several noise complaints and prior police responses to the club had reportedly been filed in the past 2 years. Activists, neighborhood representatives, and some city officials demanded the immediate closure of the venue. The debate extended to the broader public. Many questioned whether venues with violent histories should be allowed to reopen under new names or ownership. Critics of the city's nightlife regulation policies argued that there was a lack of oversight and accountability. Others called for sweeping changes to how entertainment permits and liquor licenses are issued in Chicago. In response to the outcry, city officials temporarily shut down Artis Lounge pending an investigation. As of the last report, the venue remained closed and its business license was under review. The owners did not provide public comment. In the immediate aftermath of the July 2nd, 2025 mass shooting outside Artis Lounge in downtown Chicago, the Chicago Police Department initiated an investigation into what quickly became one of the city's deadliest incidents of the summer. During a press conference held less than 24 hours after the attack, CPD Superintendent Larry Snelling described the shooting as both cowardly and calculated. His language signaled early on that law enforcement did not view this as a random act of violence. Instead, the terminology indicated a planned, deliberate assault that was executed with military-like precision. Police confirmed that at least 2 types of firearms had been used in the shooting, one a semi-automatic rifle and the other a handgun. The varying shell casings found at the scene supported the theory that multiple shooters were involved. According to reports, more than 30 rounds were discharged in less than 20 seconds. This volume of fire, coupled with the type of weapons used, added weight to the theory that the attack had been orchestrated rather than impulsive. Investigators recovered dozens of shell casings at the scene, representing multiple calibers. This confirmed the involvement of more than one firearm and at least 2 shooters. Ballistic testing was immediately initiated to identify potential links to past incidents or illegal weapons in circulation. Surveillance footage was a central focus of the investigation. The shooting occurred in Chicago's River North District, a heavily monitored commercial area containing more than 70 security cameras within a few city blocks. Detectives canvassed nearby businesses, traffic posts, and private residences to collect video evidence that may have captured the vehicle or assailants either before or after shooting. In addition to video surveillance, police also gathered eyewitness statements from partygoers, venue staff, and bystanders. Some witnesses reported seeing a dark SUV or Honda Pilot circling the area prior to the shooting. Others recalled seeing 2 individuals in the back seat of the vehicle with firearms protruding from the windows. Despite the volume of evidence gathered, shell casings, surveillance footage, and first-hand accounts, no suspects were publicly identified. Weeks after the incident, the police had yet to announce any leads. The vehicle used in the shooting remained unrecovered, and no descriptions of the shooters' identities had been released. The lack of arrests and slow movement of the investigation prompted increasing criticism from families of the victims and community leaders. Relatives accused the police of withholding information, citing inconsistencies in what they were told by detectives compared to what was reported by the media. Several families alleged they were being kept in the dark about the direction of the investigation. One family member stated that nothing new had been communicated to them in days, despite police presence at their homes and continuous questioning. Community leaders in River North and South Side neighborhoods called for federal intervention, citing a long pattern of unsolved shootings in Chicago that disproportionately affect black victims. They argued that the CPD had failed to leverage the significant surveillance infrastructure in the area and questioned whether bias or resource misallocation was delaying justice. With few answers provided by authorities, speculation grew rapidly online and within the Chicago community. Several theories emerged surrounding the possible motive behind the shooting. One primary theory suggested that Devonte Williamson, the boyfriend of Mello Buckzz, was the intended target. Devonte, who was one of the 4 victims fatally shot, had previous connections to individuals with known street affiliations. Some speculated the shooting could have been an act of retaliation or a planned hit, aimed directly at him. Another theory posited that Mello Buckzz herself may have been the target. As a rising artist with public exposure and rumored feuds in the local music scene, some believe that rival figures might have used the album release party as an opportunity to send a violent message. However, Mello was not physically harmed in the shooting. Others argued that the attack may have been part of a broader conflict in the Chicago rap community. Several artists from different neighborhoods have long-standing rivalries, and gun violence has previously intersected with music events in the city. A growing concern raised by both the public and private sources suggested that the shooters may have received information from inside the event. According to unverified reports, the attackers appear to strike with exact timing, just as the crowd began exiting the venue. The idea that someone inside the lounge may have tipped them off was not ruled out. Investigators quietly began questioning club staff and key attendees who were close to the exit at the time of the shooting. Social media activity in the days following the incident hinted at another possibility: gang retaliation. Posts surfaced referencing recent altercations and unsolved shootings involving rival street factions. Some believe the Artis Lounge shooting may have been retaliation for an earlier incident, unrelated to the music world, but closely connected to neighborhood affiliations. This angle, while speculative, was being actively examined by law enforcement, especially due to the calculated nature of the attack and the background of at least one of the victims. This event underscored an ongoing pattern of surging gun violence in Chicago, especially during the summer months. In comparing 2024 and 2025 crime statistics, reports revealed a 15% increase in shootings during June and July of 2025 alone. Community advocates described the city in crisis as more young people continue to die in high-profile attacks with no resolution. The victims of the Artis Lounge shooting were predominantly young black men and women. Many came from South and West Side neighborhoods already burdened by poverty, under-resourced schools, and heavy policing. The aftermath of the shooting triggered deep trauma throughout these communities, particularly among survivors who returned to neighborhoods where gunfire is a regular occurrence. The shooting also highlighted the mental health crisis within communities affected by repeat exposure to violence. Counseling centers reported an uptick in requests for therapy services following the incident, especially from young adults who attended the party or lost friends in the attack. Rapper Mello Buckzz posted publicly days later, stating, "My heart broke into so many pieces. I've never felt pain like this." While her statement received support from fans, others criticized her for delaying a public response. Media scrutiny intensified, with some alleging that she was attempting to protect her brand rather than participate in helping the investigation. Others defended her, pointing to trauma and fear as valid reasons for her silence. Despite these divides, her involvement in the event has become inescapable. The tragedy has now been linked to her name and career, and many continue to watch how she navigates the public fallout. In the weeks following the deadly shooting outside Artis Lounge in downtown Chicago, the city initiated swift but ultimately symbolic responses. Public pressure, media scrutiny, and grieving families demanded accountability. City officials, under mounting criticism, responded with a series of legal and political actions designed to show control, but questions about effectiveness and justice remain. The first major move came from the Chicago Department of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection. Artis Lounge, the site of the July 2nd, 2025 mass shooting that left 4 dead and 14 wounded, was shut down indefinitely. City inspectors cited imminent threats to public safety and revoked its business license just 2 days after the shooting. The venue, formerly known as Hush Lounge, had already been linked to a prior fatal incident in 2022. That history, combined with the recent tragedy, made it a focal point of scrutiny. Officials stated that repeated public safety violations and failure to prevent violent incidents were grounds for permanent closure. Chicago's local alderman of the 27th Ward, where the lounge is located, held a press conference outside the shuttered doors. He called for tighter security regulations on nightlife establishments. Among his demands, mandatory presence of licensed security officers, increased lighting and surveillance outside venues, and real-time reporting of violent incidents. He also proposed that clubs with a history of violence undergo annual public safety audits. Legal action began quickly. The family of Taylor Walker, one of the 4 fatal victims, filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Artis Lounge. The lawsuit accuses the venue of negligence, citing inadequate security measures, poor crowd control, and failure to provide safe conditions for guests. The complaint also suggests the club did not sufficiently vet individuals allowed inside and failed to coordinate emergency responses with local authorities. Attorneys representing Taylor's family alleged that the venue knowingly operated in a high-risk environment and disregarded foreseeable threats. The legal team is seeking financial damages and a formal judgment responsibility, which could set a precedent for similar future cases. In addition, class action lawsuits are reportedly being drafted by survivors who sustained injuries, both physical and psychological. At least 8 individuals have retained legal representation. Their cases focus on long-term health complications, emotional trauma, and loss of income. Some survivors require ongoing physical therapy or have suffered job loss due to PTSD, anxiety, or inability to return to public social spaces. Attorneys have signaled intent to pursue not just the venue, but also the event promoters and private security firms associated with the party. They argue that failure at every level, from security staff and to crowd management, created conditions that allowed the shooting to occur with maximum impact. As the investigation stalls, city lawmakers have introduced new proposals aimed at preventing similar tragedies. The most prominent is a motion to ban venues with repeated violent incidents from obtaining or renewing liquor licenses. This ordinance would create a database of establishments linked to shootings, stabbings, or gang-related activities. Once flagged, the businesses would lose access to licenses needed to operate nightclubs or host large events. Additionally, there's a growing push for an ordinance that would require all venues hosting events with over 100 attendees to install metal detectors. This includes private clubs, lounges, and event spaces operating after 9 p.m. Supporters argue that such measures would deter armed entrants and reduce risk. Opponents, including some in the hospitality industry, argue that these rules could hurt business, particularly for Black-owned nightlife establishments already struggling post-COVID. However, the victims' families continue to advocate for these laws, calling them common-sense safeguards. City Council has yet to vote on the proposals. As of July 2025, no arrests have been made in connection with the shooting. Chicago Police Department officials have confirmed they are still analyzing digital evidence, including surveillance footage, license plate reader data, and cell tower pings in the area around 311 West Chicago Avenue. Despite the fact that the shooting occurred in one of the most surveilled areas of the city, no suspects have been identified publicly. The black SUV involved in the drive-by shooting has not been recovered. Investigators also have not released suspect descriptions, weapon tracing results, or findings from recovered shell casings. The absence of suspects has led to public frustration. Victim advocates claim the case is suffering from a lack of urgency. Families have staged protests demanding transparency and federal support. Survivors and their families continue to cope with devastating consequences. Several victims still face long-term physical limitations from gunshot wounds. At least 3 have had surgeries, with one now permanently using a wheelchair. Psychologically, the impact has been widespread. Many survivors report symptoms of PTSD, insomnia, panic attacks, and chronic anxiety. Some refuse to enter crowded spaces or attend public events. Multiple survivors have quit their jobs or dropped out of school due to trauma-related stress. Family members of the deceased remain in grief. Mello Buckzz, whose boyfriend and close friend were killed, has remained largely silent since her initial Instagram post. Meanwhile, communities continue to hold vigils and share tributes, but many express feelings of helplessness and fear. What began as a night of artistic celebration quickly devolved into chaos and death. 4 young lives, Taylor, Aviance, Leon, and Devonte, were taken in seconds. They leave behind children, partners, families, and a community desperate for closure. Despite promises of justice, no suspects have been named. The venue has been closed. Lawsuits are in motion. Policy proposals have been introduced. But the real question lingers. Will any of this prevent the next tragedy? For now, this case remains another entry in Chicago's long list of unsolved mass shootings. And for those left behind, the search for answers continues. Do you believe this was a targeted hit or random violence? Should the club be permanently shut down after this? Why haven't police made arrests despite surveillance in the area? Is enough being done to protect nightlife attendees in urban cities? What justice looks like for the victims' families? What would you demand? If you found this story as gripping and heartbreaking as we did, don't forget to like this video and share it with others. And if you want to hear more true crime stories that uncover the mysteries behind these tragic events, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell. You won't want to miss our latest stories, updates, and discussions. Thank you for joining us on this journey to seek justice and explore the truth. Together, we can make a difference. Until next time, stay safe and stay aware.